Hello, everybody. Welcome to Bible class. We are going through the Sermon on the Mount, and we are studying today, or we'll study today, Matthew chapter 6, verses 16 through 18. It reads, "Moreover, when ye fast, be not as the hypocrites of a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear unto men to fast. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. But thou, when thou fastest, anoint thine head, and wash thy face, that thou appear not unto men to fast, but unto thy Father which is in secret. And thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly." All right, so along the lines that he talks about here, when it says you give alms to men to be seen of them, and then when you pray, don't pray so that people can see you like the hypocrites do. They have their reward. They have their reward. It says up here, so alms, prayer, fasting. When you fast, don't be like the hypocrites. So this is a third area where you're not supposed to be like the hypocrite. Fasting is an interesting thing. You don't see it too often. It was regulated in the Old Testament. It was commanded in the Old Testament, specifically on the Day of Atonement. That was the only time it was commanded. But people fasted in the Old Testament. Like, for example, we'll go, let's see, Leviticus 16:29. Leviticus 16:29, the Day of Atonement. See? And then we come here to verse 29, "And this shall be a statute forever unto you, that in the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, ye shall afflict your souls." Afflict your souls was the way that they would say fast. Afflict your souls, do no work at all, whether it be of your own country or a stranger that sojourns among you. So this was a fast that they were to do. There were times when people would fast because they were mourning. For example, let's see, 1 Samuel 7:6. Let's look at that one. There's also 2 Samuel 12:22. Actually, that one, I think that's David. 2 Samuel 12. Yeah, 22. When David, let's see, Nathan the prophet tells David that his child is going to die, and in verse 22, they're asking, what is it that you've done? You fasted and wept for the child while it was alive, but when the child was dead, you rose and ate bread. And he said, while the child was yet alive, I fasted and wept, for I said, who can tell whether God will be gracious to me that the child may live? But now he is dead. Why should I fast? Can I bring him back again? I shall go to him, but he shall not return to me. So David there is fasting to make entreaty to God, really. He's mourning, but he's also praying to God, hoping that maybe God will change the punishment that he's going to receive. Anyway, back to Matthew. Fasting was not something that is commanded in the Old Testament. And in fact, if you go forward a few chapters to chapter 9, let's see. Disciples of John came to Jesus saying, why do we and the Pharisees often fast, but thy disciples fast not? Jesus said unto them, can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? The days will come when the bridegroom shall be taken from them, and then they shall fast. No man puts on a piece of new cloth. And then he continues on there. So why do we and the disciples fast? A lot. And there's evidence from early Christian writings that the Jews fasted very often. In fact, let me see here. There's evidence that the fasting occurred Oh, when was it? There were several days. Let me see. I had it open here and I lost it. There were several days for fasting. Yeah, the Didache, it says, taught that the hypocrites fasted on Mondays and Tuesdays. It's in the 8th chapter of the Didache, which is an early Christian writing. The Babylonian Talmud attests that as well. And it seems that Christians, because the Jews fasted on Mondays and Thursdays, they would fast on Wednesday and Friday, maybe. But yeah, there were now in the law of Moses, a fast is only commanded on the Day of Atonement. So this was one time a year there was a commanded fast, but there were other instances when fasting was appropriate. Fasting was something that you decided to do. It was a way of disciplining yourself and focusing on God, focusing on prayer, instead of taking the necessary effort to prepare food and do all of that. What you would do is instead you would devote that time to prayer, because remember, at this time food preparation took a lot of the day, and you had to, when you fasted and gave that up, you were actually giving up a lot of the time you were taking to devote to God, to devote to prayer. So they would do this. Now John's disciples are asking Jesus, why don't your disciples fast? If fasting were something that were necessary, then they would have fasted, but they said we fast often. Probably, like we said earlier, Mondays and Thursdays were the fasting days. And Jesus' disciples, they didn't do that while Jesus was there. And he said there's an exception. Can the children of the bride chamber mourn as long as the bridegroom is with them? So they're with Jesus, they're being instructed. Therefore, it wasn't required that they fast. However, and when you look through the New Testament, there are no commandments. It doesn't say you must fast. However, Jesus does regulate fasting, and the Bible talks about Christians fasting. Let's see. Let's go back to chapter 6. We can go over here. When ye fast, this is Treasury of Scripture Knowledge, TSK, cross-reference. So it looks at this phrase here, when ye fast, like that, and then be not as the hypocrites. See the be not as the hypocrites. So don't be like the hypocrites. And of course, it cites stuff we've already seen. But when ye fast, we have New Testament examples. As they ministered to the Lord and fasted, the Holy Spirit said, separate Barnabas and Saul. All right, so and when they had fasted and prayed and laid their hands on them, they sent them away. So they're appointing Saul. When they had ordained elders in every church and had prayed with fasting, they commended them to the Lord on whom they believed. They had an important role there. Defraud ye not. So husbands and wives, don't separate. Defraud ye not one the other, except it be with consent, for a time that you may give yourselves to prayer and fasting. So if you wanted to devote yourself to prayer and fasting instead of marital pleasure, that's something that you could do. We could look at, let's see, Paul talking about his ministry in stripes, in imprisonments, in tumults, in labors, in watchings, in fastings. Also 2 Corinthians 11, where he talks about all the times he suffered for the church, for the gospel, all of the things that he went through. He ends it. Well, if we go over, if you went over there, it's a little bit later on in this discussion. It says, in weariness, painfulness, watchings often, in hunger and thirst, in fastings often, in cold and nakedness. So Paul cared, and because of that, he fasted a lot. Now, this is fasting is something that Christians did, I think probably a lot more than Christians do today. And it's something to consider. The purpose of fasting is it's discipline to focus on spiritual matters. So you're disciplining yourself, you're giving up something that is pretty standard, right? Eating food, it's pretty standard. You get pretty, if you go for a day without eating, you get really, really hungry. You get, sometimes some people get irritable because they haven't eaten anything, and it's a very difficult thing to do, to go for a whole day without eating and just spend that time in prayer. So because it's a difficult thing, you had some people who advertised that it was difficult. Here are the Jews, and they have 2 fasts a week, and when they fast, they make sure they get on their best sackcloth. It says they disfigure their faces, that they appear unto men to fast. So what he's talking about there, and he sort of mentions the opposite in the next verse: when you fast, anoint your head and wash your face. Why are they disfiguring? Well, they're not doing normal hygiene things, not washing their face or making sure they look presentable. Instead, they're going out and they're looking terrible, and oh, I'm fasting, it's so bad. They're getting the biggest pity party that they can. But Jesus says, when you fast, wash your face, anoint your head. Make sure your hair's washed, your hair's brushed, your face is washed. Make sure you don't look like somebody who is fasting, look like somebody who is suffering, because that has nothing to do with it anyway. What does not washing your face have anything to do with your holiness? Or not washing, not brushing your hair or something like that. You look very unput together. Well, people are going to know that you're suffering, and I guess if you encourage that behavior and teach people that this is how people who fast look, then they're going to say, yeah, you're fasting, look at how holy you are, and they see you all the time, and they're going to say, wow, look at all of that he sacrifices. But the goal is not to appear like you're suffering. You don't want to look like you're suffering when you fast. You want God to see. When you fast, when you're disciplining yourself so that you can be closer to God, I think the hypocrites forgot that so that you can be closer to God part of it. They wanted to display their holiness, but there was no personal growth there. They were fasting, but were they really praying? And when they prayed, how did they pray? Were they, oh, Lord, be with me. I'm so hungry. I'm fasting because I'm such a holy person. Oh, man, I can imagine. I can imagine when Jesus talks about that Pharisee who goes into the temple and toots his own horn, saying, I'm so much better than everybody else, including this tax collector here. This is the kind of prayer that they prayed. He wasn't making that up. He was using their own words against them. So he's speaking about people who are doing this. It's fast day. Don't let anybody know that you're fasting. Fasting is a choice that you do to get closer to God. So do it in secret. Your Father who sees in secret shall reward you openly. All right, that's all we'll say about that topic for now. Next time, lay up your treasure in heaven. We have a few verses that'll take probably 2 weeks right there. Yeah, we'll do here. And then the next week we'll do here. Oh man, I like 24. So the chapter's got great verses. Jesus is just such a master teacher. All right, but we've covered 16 through 18. I really appreciate you studying with me, and I hope that you have a blessed day.